Symbiote! Is this not why you are here?
Greetings to everyone watching live and everyone watching after the fact. Shout out to the faithful and salute to the patrons. This is Larry Williams, OAW Commander-in-Chief, and I'm here to bring you all a new movie review. And tonight we will be going ahead and discussing Venom, Let There Be Carnage. So real quick, before I jump into this review, I want to go ahead and thank everyone for tuning in live. Thanks everyone, as always. So much appreciate you guys showing up, but I do need a huge favor, guys. If you can, please feel free to smash that like button, share that link, spread the word, pass the video around. It really helps with the YouTube algorithm, and that really helps a brother out. Also, if time permits, I will be taking some of your questions and comments at the end of this video. But if you want to make absolutely positively sure your question or comments gets read and answered before we wrap up tonight's broadcast, you can always drop a super chat. That's greatly appreciated, and I'll be sure to get to it before the end of tonight's stream. You can also support the channel via Cash App and PayPal. Links are in the description box below to those as well. So with that being said, you guys ready to talk some Carnage? All right, so let's get on with it. So this is my review of the 2021 American superhero film Venom, Let There Be Carnage, starring Tom Hardy, Michelle Williams, Naomie Harris, Reid Scott, Stephen Graham, and Woody Harrelson. Based on the characters from the Marvel Comics, it is the second film in Marvel's Spider-Man universe and is the sequel to 2018's Venom. The film was written by Kelly Marcel and directed by Andy Serkis. Yes, that Andy Serkis. And a brief synopsis of the film. After finding a host body in investigative reporter Eddie Brock, the alien symbiote must face a new enemy, Carnage, the alter ego of serial killer Cletus Kasady. Now say that 5 times fast. Very, very brief synopsis of the film. But as you guys know, I'm pretty much going to get into more detail about the film and whatnot, give you all my thoughts. As always, we will start this thing off spoiler free. But towards the tail end of the review, I will go into spoiler territory. Don't worry, I will let you guys know well in advance when we're going to get ready to talk some spoilers. All right, so pretty much what is the setup for this film? Essentially, we pick up, I think they mentioned it's like 5 months after the events, after the conclusion of the first film. And essentially, this is the story of Eddie and his very weird sort of love-hate relationship with Cletus Kasady. Eddie, of course, as we saw at the end of the first film in the post-credit scene, goes to prison to interview Cletus Kasady. And that's, of course, foreshadowing to Carnage. And essentially, Eddie is pretty much for whatever reason, he is the only reporter that Cletus will actually meet with and will actually talk with. And in his discussions with Cletus, Eddie pretty much uncovers one of the great mysteries of Cletus Kasady, the location of some of his victims. And after pretty much solving that case, Cletus is put back on death row, essentially. They institute the death penalty for him, and this is where Cletus sort of goes on his revenge mode. And so throughout the course of the film, it's all about, Cletus Kasady breaking out of prison, rescuing his wife, actually, played by Naomie Harris, the character of Shriek, which was one I'm gonna be honest with you guys, having read Maximum Carnage in over a decade, totally forgot Shriek was even in that story, but never mind, was surprised to see her here. And once he goes ahead and groups back up with Shriek, it's an all-out revenge plot against Eddie and Venom. While this is happening, Eddie and Venom also have a falling out of their own to where the two separate, and throughout the course of the film are pretty much trying to either get back to life without the other or get used to life without the other. But then, of course, once Carnage comes onto the scene and the threat is real, of course, we know how this whole thing goes, right? They have to team back up to face this new threat that they are responsible for creating, whether intentional or unintentionally. And so that's pretty much the main plot of the film. That's pretty much what it is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and take some time to really break down some of the things going on in this movie. So the thing with let me start by doing this, right? Let me start by talking about the first film, the 2018 film, which I never formally reviewed on the channel. So I'll just go ahead and give you all my thoughts on that. And of course, history speaks for itself. We know what the whole story behind the first Venom film was, right? That was a film that was better than it had any right to be. It was a film that was massively more successful than it had any right to be. That film was sort of a Frankenstein monster, sort of speak, just because going back to it, like one of the biggest comments that were made about the first film was the fact that you could tell that there was a lot of it cut out. And you could tell that there were pieces of it, certain plot threads, story beats, this, that, and the other, that were either removed entirely, and some of the pieces were still there, so you kind of knew about it, like you knew it existed once upon a time. It's edited a certain way, it's rearranged a certain way. Like I say, it's this weird Frankenstein monster of a piece, but the action was still good for what it was. The special effects weren't as bad as were advertised, and it had this very odd sort of humor that managed to, it just worked. It worked. It shouldn't have worked. It had no business working whatsoever, but it had this odd sort of charm that just worked, right? And hell, even I'll even throw this out there. Eminem's theme song for the film, Venom, right? That song's not that great. And me being an Eminem fan, even I'll be the first one to admit it. But I also like it, and it worked. Okay, that being said, I expected the sequel to at least improve upon the material of the original film, if nothing else, because it seems to be a lot more consolidated. We only have one main writer, right, on this one, who also worked on the first one, and it's a very loose adaptation of extremely loose Actually, I wouldn't even call it an adaptation of Maximum Carnage. It's loosely inspired by the Maximum Carnage storyline from the comics. However, the main crux of the film is based off of the story that Kelly Marcel, the screenwriter, and Tom Hardy wrote together. So it is its own thing, sort of like an offspring symbiote that's getting made accidentally. It is its own thing. That being said, there are a lot of things in the story that either were abandoned, forgotten, or just not followed up on. There's a lot of things that they are alluding to, and I'm not just talking about Easter eggs. I'm talking about things that either were alluded to from the first movie or in that first movie that weren't picked up or weren't fleshed out or weren't explained. And this seems like I'll put it to you like this. Instead of this one being mashed up like the first one, this one just seems streamlined. Like, we're not going to make this overly complicated. We're not going to throw, we're not going to throw too much at the wall and hope it sticks. No, instead, what we're going to do is we just have a premise. We're going to pile on all of the things that got a lot of attention from the first movie, mainly the comedy aspects of the first movie, right? We're going to amp it up because that's what people are coming to see. And we're just going, and essentially what's left holes in the plot, we're just going to pad with that comedy, and we're going to throw it out there and call it a movie, and people are going to eat the shit up. And guess what? This sucker has already grossed over 90 million, as was reported this morning, which means that it probably will cross the 100 million opening weekend threshold. It's already broke. It's already the biggest theatrical release since the pandemic. So there is a method to the madness, but again, it is still madness. And I'm going to go as best as I can without going full-blown spoiler, just break down some of the things I'm talking about. Okay, so first things first. The Carnage storyline, interesting premise. I think, especially where we left off with that first movie, had a good enough setup. And at the start of this film, it appears it's going to play out the same way. But then it takes a hard turn because, again, there was more devotion to the comedic aspects of the film as opposed to a strong narrative foundation. Essentially, you have a investigative reporter who goes toe to toe with a serial killer. They meet because, and here's the other thing too. Let me just go ahead and throw this out there right now, because part of me thought that it was just me misremembering things. And then I had to go back. I'm like, no, I think this was the initial setup for Cletus Kasady. It was my understanding, silly on me, foolish, Larry, foolish. Why would you think that? Because that seems like that makes way too much sense to be in this movie. It was my understanding that the reason why Brock goes to Cletus in the first place, Cletus invites Brock to interview him, right? It's my understanding that Cletus is never given a full exclusive expose type interview with anybody. He chooses Brock because he is a fan of Brock's show prior to the events of the first film. And then, of course, Brock breaks the story of what was going on in the first movie, right? With that company. So Cletus sees this as an opportunity. Here's where I was wrong, apparently, because guess what? It's not in this film, nor is it in the first film. And I thought it was. I thought the whole point of Brock being there was that in exchange, right, for Brock pretty much telling Cletus's story, Cletus Kasady's story, he would reveal where he hid the bodies of the murders that apparently they have not pinned him with yet. So Cletus Kasady has already been in prison for some time, but he's not in prison for the specific murders that Brock solves in this movie. What? Okay, fine. He's a serial killer. He's already killed multiple people. That is not the biggest concern. No, it's not. That's not a deal breaker. Okay, fine. But I thought that's why Brock agreed to do the interview in the first place, because he was actually, receiving something from Cletus Kasady that would be beneficial to the rest of society, which is also why when we open up this film, we find out that Brock's been working with San Francisco PD to interview Kasady for that reason. But then apparently Brock's the one that solves the mystery of where the bodies were. Now, I could be crazy. So y'all in the comments, please feel free to let me know, because I thought that was the arrangement that was already agreed upon in the post-credit scene of the first movie. Maybe it's me misremembering things. Now, Larry, but hey, just because the movie's not written the way I want it to doesn't mean that it is immediately a bad movie. No, it's not. However, but that would explain that initial contact, because throughout the course of the film, there are multiple times where Cletus and Eddie do meet and they speak with one another. But the familiarity that Cletus speaks with Eddie, the way he does, and even when we have the character of the police detective Mulligan, which is I'll get to Mulligan in a second, but another little Easter egg that they dropped in there. But Mulligan is the detective that Eddie's supposed to be working with, but I thought the reason he was involved was because they were supposed to be working together. And you see where I'm going with this? Even Mulligan's trying to figure out, why is it that Kasady is attracted to you the way he is? And mind you, this is before any symbiotes actually, like this is before Carnage even exists. Okay, this is in the first half of the movie, and we still can't. You want to know the real mystery? We can't figure out that. A, we can't figure out Kasady's affinity for Eddie because he never says it, and B, we can't figure out. Oh snap! I was going somewhere with that. We can't figure out how he knows as much about Eddie as he knows. We can't figure that out. And guess what? The movie never answers that. Almost as if there was a plot thread somewhere that got left on the cutting room floor. Maybe there's another scene that we didn't get to see that might be able to explain. Okay, fine. That's number one. Number two, the whole opening of this film, which for the record is one of the better parts of the movie, sets up Cletus's whole deal for wanting to get out, not just to save his own skin, but to rescue Shriek. And great, beautiful, fine. But then if that was the case, then why is it prior to his escape, he becomes fixated on a revenge plot against Eddie? For what? He blames Eddie for cracking that case, which I thought that was why Eddie was interviewing you in the first place, because you were supposed to provide him with that information to begin with. But never mind that. And then after the incident that ends up creating Carnage, it's like, but Eddie just unknowingly provided you with the means of your own escape. Now that you're free, and now that you managed to rescue Shriek, to bust her out, why then are you so fixated on getting rid of Eddie? Why would that even matter? Particularly since your symbiote is so much stronger than his. Now, of course, Cletus doesn't know that Eddie and the symbiote aren't even together anymore at this point, but why then is that your biggest thing? You see what I mean? There's a lot of motivations that Kasady has in the movie that don't seem to make sense. The Shriek one is the only one that makes sense. And that's all he really needed. The whole thing with the case, none of that really mattered. The whole beef with Mulligan, that's part of the backstory. So we should have just kept that line going. But again, we don't know why they do what they do, right? They should know. They should know. That's the point. Your character should know what their motivations are. And those motivations should remain consistent with that character. Okay? Now, here's the other thing too. Because the bulk of the movie is dealing with the whole Eddie symbiote relationship, or the breakup, if you will, because that's exactly what it is in the movie. The way it is portrayed is that of a romantic couple, which is disturbing, to say the least. And of course, it's all played up for comedy and whatnot, but it's like, yeah, but that's a comedic, that's a joke that they took literal, and then they just went too far with it. Now, I'm not to say that there's not a good story in Eddie, either him losing the symbiote, or, I mean, there are a plethora of ways they could have came up with separating the two of them. But the issue I have with that whole thing, because like I said, it's only done for comedy. It actually doesn't have any weight, and it has no type of character growth for Eddie or for the symbiote at all. It's an argument that gets blown out of proportion, and then they decide to squash the argument to team back up, and then they decide, you know what? We're kind of better together than we are apart, so let's just go ahead and kind of, just kick it, right? But that says nothing about all of the flaws that Eddie has that apparently keep getting thrown back into his face from the first film, that from what we're seeing, he's actually grown through, but apparently not. He's still treated like a loser. He's still treated like a bum. He's still treated like he destroyed his entire freaking life. But it's like, but the man's actually been helping clean up the streets, and he just uncovered a massive fucking murder mystery. But I'm sitting there and you're still telling me he's a piece of shit. And then for the symbiote to have a hand in Eddie being able to do all those things, he's the one coming down on Eddie about that? What? What? No, that don't make no fucking sense. That does not make any sense. If anything, the symbiote should be defending Eddie because the symbiote is responsible for Eddie being able to accomplish the things that have allowed him to turn his life around. Does this shit just sound like a pissed off girlfriend that's just saying how she feels as opposed to what the facts actually are? Because that's what that sounds like. And that's the way they played it out in the film, and that's the way it portrays itself. And again, the comedy didn't work. It was really cringeworthy in many parts, somewhat embarrassing, particularly the whole thing with the rave that the symbiote manages to. That part, y'all just gonna have to experience for yourself. But y'all probably saw the clip of it in the commercials. Yeah, the symbiote goes to a rave, apparently, with the fucking glow sticks and all that type of dumb shit. Really stupid. Really dumb. Okay. So moving on from that, because I'm done talking about that. But those are like the two biggest things about the film, because those are the two biggest, like, storylines in the film. And again, like I said, it's not padded, so I'll give it that. It's not padded. I mean, that's one good thing I can say about the story, is that it doesn't run too long. It does overstay its welcome, but you know what? The movie clocks in at under 90 minutes. So, not the worst I've seen. Not the worst I've seen, right? But here's the thing about that. Let's talk about some stuff about the movie that actually did work really well that I wish we had spent more time on. So let's just go. Okay, biggest thing. Shriek. Interesting backstory. Great setup. Naomie Harris, great casting, great performance. Love it. Really wish she was a bigger part of the movie, considering that she is sort of the main inspiration for Kasady's campaign in the second half of the movie. I wish we got to see more of them two together, having a conversation. I mean, I understand they're, homicidal psychopaths, but these characters get too much screen time as it is to just write them off as fucking maniacs. Like, again, if there's a method to the madness, shouldn't we be allowed to learn what their method is? But the way they play it off is, oh no, we're just going to be some crazy ass lunatics with superpowers just blowing shit up and destroying shit. And apparently that's all this movie required. So again, joke's on me, right? Joke's on me. But yeah, so now that I've kind of gotten off of my little tirade about the things that just don't make fucking sense in the movie, again, let me just talk about what does work. Like I said, Naomie Harris as Shriek was great. Wish she had more to do. Stephen Graham as Detective Peter Mulligan, great casting choice, really good performance. Again, wish we would have gotten more with him, particularly because what I thought they were setting up with his character. So yeah, kind of wish we would have got, because essentially they just play him off as the stereotypical like hardball fucking cop, and I'm like, yeah, but there should be a little bit more to him, particularly because of we know he's trying to do the right thing, right? At least in terms of his job, right? So if nothing else, like, they want to kind of pull him off as like a Detective Bullock type character, but we already know, dude, Bullock was way more nuanced than just being the bad cop, as it were, right? So kind of wish we would have gotten a little bit more with that, but hey, there you go. And then Michelle Williams' character. Now, granted, her character is fine. I mean, her character wasn't really much in the first movie other than the disgruntled, pissed off girlfriend. But I wish she was in this film a little bit more too. Because again, like, we don't spend enough time with Eddie around other humans. And that's one of the things that the film, I think, actually needed, because Eddie's been spending all this time with an alien symbiote, a murderous alien symbiote. So in order for him to be able to keep whatever rational mind he can, he really does need to be spending more time with other humans, particularly the humans that know about the symbiote. He needs more confidants. That's what it is. He needs more confidants. And we know that he has them because he's kept up a relationship with Michelle Williams' character. Old girl at the local corner store, she knows about the symbiote. Apparently they're buddies. Kind of wish we would have had a few more scenes with her and Eddie, as opposed to just using her again for comedic gags. But there you are. All right. All right, so let's talk about what some other things that I think do actually work well enough in the film. So graphics are good. Actually pretty impressive in some parts, more so than even I expected. However, for this movie, given this, it's really weird, right? Because essentially this movie is supposed to be an action comedy. That's what it's supposed to be. Yeah, that's what it's supposed to be, an action comedy. That being said, though, I cannot help but sort of want to lean into the source material. And given the action that we did get in the movie, this movie should have been way more violent than it actually was. Like, usually I'm not the biggest, I don't really care so much when it comes to like ratings for certain movies, particularly when it comes to anything comic book related or anything superhero fair, because I do still believe, like, even with a PG-13 rating, like, you can push, you can push those boundaries well enough to get your point across, and it can be highly effective. Again, you guys remember me, I've said it before in previous videos, I've said it in previous reviews, that you can sell violence very effectively with what we don't see versus what you actually do show us, right? And so for a movie like this, that's where that would have helped it the most, is like, we know how violent Carnage is as a character and how violent Cletus Kasady is as a character. And to say that essentially this is nothing but a big ass monster movie, okay, shoot it like that, edit it like that, run it like that, right? Like, yes, we have a monster. Show us what we don't, invoke our imagination with what we don't see versus then what we do. Well, the thing about it is, what the movie actually does is it shows a lot of violence, but when you cut away at the last minute before we actually see a kill occur, but then you cut back so quick and then you're cutting to something else, and we don't have time to live with any casualty actually being shown on camera. It's kind of like a hodgepodge sort of mess, and really wish you wouldn't done that way. I mean, hell, dude, for the type of action I'm talking about, to give another comic book example, just go back to the hospital scene in Spider-Man 2, when Doc Ock's mechanical arms take control for the first time and they wipe out everybody that's in that surgical room. Dude, there's no blood in that, right? And I wouldn't call that scene necessarily gratuitous, but it is violent as all hell. And that was a PG-13 movie, and that was done back in what? Spider-Man, that's 2004? You know what I'm saying? So it's like, the type of thing I'm talking about can be done. But when you got Carnage rampaging through 2 different prison facilities. And he's just going ham on all these armed guards. And there's not a drop of blood. And we don't actually get to see him actually kill anybody. He's just kind of throwing people around. Yeah. Left much to be desired, my man. Very, 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 very much so. Left much to be desired. So I wish I could say that the action was great. Truthfully, dude, the only action that really hits in the movie is the Carnage Venom fight at the end. That I think is done well enough, but then there are even parts of that which don't make any sense. Case in point, when Carnage decides that he's going to kill Michelle Williams' character to get back at Eddie, why the fuck does he leave the room and go all the way up to the roof to conduct the murder? Eddie's not even up there. I thought the whole point was to kill her in front of him. No, they did it. They did it because we needed an excuse for Carnage to go on the roof. Yeah. We have those types of contrivances. Yeah. We have those types of contrivances in this film. Music's great. I think the music is actually pretty good for the most part. Score is pretty nice. I do like Kasady's score. But yeah, man, this movie's a mess. It is a mess. Shit, man, my review is a mess. Now that I'm thinking about it, it's like, because I see. So I was trying to do what the movie did. I was going to streamline this thing. You know what I'm saying? It's like, all right, just go ahead, say my points, say my bits, be over with it, right? So I can hop on some questions and some comments, and then talk about spoilers and stuff, right? But then I just started thinking, and the more I thought, I was like, nah, dude, like, no, there's just certain things I gotta fucking mention, because the more I think about them, the angrier I get, and the worse this movie seems. It's one of those where it's like, the more I think about it, the worse it actually gets. But so yeah, pretty much closing thoughts on this movie. If you're just looking for, I hate to say this because you guys know, especially you've been following my channel for a while, y'all know I hate this phrase. Turn your brain off, right? I hate that phrase. However, if you were going to turn your brain off and just watch a fucking popcorn flick, yeah, this one's fine. It's suitable for that. It's an okay popcorn flick. Just don't take it seriously whatsoever. Don't take it seriously, because the movie doesn't even take itself seriously, and not in a good way. Not like in a Big Lebowski sort of way where it doesn't take itself seriously. No, this doesn't take itself seriously in the worst kind of way. Transformers takes itself too serious. Okay, well, you guys know what I mean. If all you want is a mindless popcorn flick, by all means, here you are. I give you Let There Be Carnage. But if you wanted something with some substance, something with a little, some teeth to it, some bite to it, something that kind of, like a nice meal, kind of stick to your ribs, a hearty, sort of helping. This ain't it. This ain't it. This ain't it. It lacks the charm of the first movie. It thinks it's funnier than it actually is. The jokes run way too long. The characters are abandoned, and what the fuck does it matter? Because it's going to make over $100 million this opening weekend. So we'll get another one. All right. So I got a couple of minutes left. I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna hit up these super chat, because we got 2 super chats. Thanks so much, guys. And then we're gonna talk about the big spoiler, because really, there's only really one big spoiler in this freaking with this whole thing, right? And I'm pretty sure that's what you all been waiting for. So first off, actually, let me go ahead and change my theme real quick. So first super chat of the evening came from I'm Sorry Wilson with a $5 super chat. Thank you so much. He says Carnage was pretty disappointing. Woody Harrelson was pretty spot on for Cletus Kasady. He was great. I thought Harrelson was a perfect casting, and with the material he was given, I thought he was great. I just wish he had better material. I really do. And then we have a second. This is a 10-pound super chat. Thanks so much from eSubs Melanin. Thank you. Welcome. Did not leave a comment, but by all means, if you have a question or comment, go ahead. Just drop it. Just drop it in the comments. You don't have to super chat it again. Just drop it, and I'll get to it. I'll keep an eye out for it. Make sure I get to it before I wrap up. And then wait, this is a different one. The first one was it's the same one. I'm Sorry Wilson says Larry's favorite comic movie is Iron Man 2. That is a lie, good sir, and you know it. No, it is not. Iron Man 2 is actually my least favorite. You know what? Ragnarok. Ragnarok is my least favorite of the MCU movies. Hate those. All right, guys. So I got a few minutes left. If you got any more super chats you guys want to get in before we wrap up, by all means, throw them in now. However, I do got to let you guys know we're about to talk spoilers. It's spoiler time. So if you have not yet seen the movie and you don't want to be spoiled, please hop off. Thanks for coming in. Thanks for tuning in. I greatly appreciate it. I greatly appreciate you. Don't forget to hit that like button on the way out. Copy that link, post it on social media, your Facebook, your Twitters, your Instagrams, your Snapchats, and your Facebooks. All of it. I think I said Facebook twice, but that's okay. Make sure, help out. All right. So let's talk about the big post-credit scene that everyone's talking about and losing their shit over. All right. So here's the thing, though. It's really not that big of a deal. You want to know why? Because we already knew about it. Here's the big post-credit scene. So Eddie and the symbiote are kicking it. I won't call him, for the record, I won't call him Venom. I'm pretty sure y'all like, Larry, how come you never refer to him as Venom? Because the way they do this movie and those characters, it's Eddie and it's the symbiote, and the symbiote's name is not Venom. You want to know why? Because Venom is Eddie and the symbiote together. That character is called Venom. But when you keep writing these fucking characters as if they're two different entities, they're not Venom. That's why the line is, we are Venom. Because it's supposed to be the two of them. But when they're constantly separated, constantly at odds, constantly dichotomized, they're not Venom. That's why I won't call him Venom. It's Eddie and it's the goddamn symbiote. Okay, anyway, so post-credit scene, Eddie and the symbiote, they're kicking it on like some resort island somewhere, they're having, vacation or whatever. They kicking back, they chilling, they're off. Well, Eddie's a fugitive now, right? He's a fugitive, so he's on the run. And then the symbiote reveals to Eddie that, of course, because he's an alien and an alien species, and from, light years away, he's been around billions of Earth cycles, billions of our years. So he's amassed a lot of stuff, a lot of knowledge. He's seen a lot of shit in all that time. And he tells Eddie, I never revealed this to you. And Eddie's like, well, how bad can it be? He said, dude, if I was to drop some of these truth bombs on you, hip you to some of this alien knowledge, your mind wouldn't be able to handle it. And Eddie's like, try me, right? But apparently, as this occurs, Eddie then finds himself in a different place, different room, because that's another gag. He actually teleports to another guy's hotel room. And we're seeing the J. Jonah Jameson broadcast about Peter Parker's identity at the end from Far From Home. Now, this is my reading on what occurred. I thought what Eddie just experienced is Doc Strange's spell from No Way Home, the upcoming Spider-Man film, which is why now Eddie finds himself in the same universe with the Tom Holland Spider-Man. That's what I thought that was, because there actually is a bit of like a glitch. There's like a, some type of like event that occurs where Eddie just like kind of like, whoa, what was that? What just happened? And then he's seeing the broadcast on the television. I'm like, okay, because we know Multiverse of Madness, that whole thing, bringing in all these different characters from all these different continuities and, merging them into a singularity, single continuity. Like, we knew that's what was going to happen. So when that scene occurs at the end of this movie, I'm like, well, duh. Because we know, dude, they've already announced that Tom Hardy's Venom is going to meet up with Tom Holland's Spider-Man in a future movie. They already announced that. So, oh my God. I'm like, what the fuck are y'all so goddamn excited about? Like, we knew this already. I am so confused. Like, but yeah, that's all it is. So yeah, apparently Hardy's Venom is now in that world, which he kind of always were, but yeah, so that's the big deal. Like I said, not a surprise, not a shocker, because we already knew about it. So yeah, there it is. So anywho, that is going to do it for me, guys. I want to once again take this opportunity to thank everybody watching live. Thanks everyone watching after the fact. As always, be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Follow me on social media, facebook.com/OAW Entertainment, twitter.com/OAWENTMT, twitch.tv/OAW_entertainment, right here on youtube.com/OAW Entertainment. And last but certainly not least, if you have yet to do so, become a patron over at, where's the banner? Bam! Become a patron over at patreon.com/OAW. I have multiple tiers available for you all, where you can request, you can submit video requests, review requests, discussion of the week, all that type of jazz. Granted, I know I've kind of fallen off on the requests. I got to get back to it. Hopefully now with my schedule kind of opening my weekends up this month, we'll be able to get back to knocking out some of those review requests. But right now, the most popular thing on Patreon is the Discord, right? Because once you become a patron, you get access to the OAW Discord server. On the 5th of every month is when I add in all the new members who joined from the previous month. And yeah, I mean, that's pretty much the big thing, the big Patreon thing right now is the Discord server, because we're on there 2-3 times a week, just chopping it up, hanging out. Probably gonna be hanging out there with the guys tonight. But again, and that's available for any patron. I believe at the, is it the $10? Actually, I need to find out which tier is the Patreon. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna have to go back and look that up, because I wanted to say it was all of my patrons, but I do not believe it is. I think it is just I believe it's the $10 tier or higher gets to join the Discord. I think that's right. I could be wrong, but yeah, it is. It's the $10 or higher. But anywho, but like I said, once again, that is patreon.com/OAW. All right, guys. So time for me to get out of here. One final note. So, I will be placing a poll on the channel on the community tab. Want to get you guys feedback on something. I watched the Many Saints of Newark, the Sopranos prequel film. Watched it last night. I already got the stream and stuff set up for the review, but I'm gonna have to try to squeeze this one in. You guys let me know if you all want to see it. If you guys think I should review it for the channel, if you think enough people will be interested in it to want to hear my thoughts on it, just let me know so I can see how I can kind of pull this off. It might try to be some guerrilla style. I might have to film it in the morning and upload it that evening, something crazy like that. I don't even know if I can do it live. But the stream is set up. I've seen the movie. I'm ready to go. I just want to know if you guys would be interested in seeing it. So keep an eye out for that poll. It will be posted probably tomorrow. So keep an eye out for that. All right, guys, it's time for me to get out of here. This has been Larry Williams, OAW Commander-in-Chief. I am signing off. And until next time, peace.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained? Is this not why you are here?